Hello and welcome to the introductory episode of the Small Triumph Sports Library and Archives channel. This is a project that I'm taking on with some trepidation, but it's also one that I am very excited about. On the internet, with its various social media platforms, people often have many different monikers and personae, but I like to keep things simple. So my friends and family generally call me Brian. My students generally call me Dr. Love. But here I am simply your humble host. The primary focus of this channel will be on the small Triumph sports cars, specifically the Spitfires and GT6s that were produced between 1962 and 1980. The overall focus on the channel will be on the history of these cars and on issues of originality. However, I may from time to time throw in some other sort of loosely related content, perhaps discussing the Spitfire and GT6's predecessors or successors. I also have an interest in Triumph motorcycles, so some of that kind of content may work its way onto the channel over time. But again, my overall focus will be on the Spitfire and GT6 and specifically on the history of those models, on production history, on period documents, and things like that. And of course, as with anyone who is doing this kind of work, I am building on what has come before. So one key work when it comes to Spitfire and GT6 history is the book that you see on your screen, Triumph Spitfire and GT6, A Guide to Originality by John Thomason. This book was originally published in 1995, I believe. It is a really ambitious project. It's an attempt to document all of the changes that occurred over the production runs of the Triumph Spitfire and GT6. A lot of Spitfire and GT6 enthusiasts refer to this book as the Bible. It is a vitally important resource. That said, it is UK-centric. That is, it focuses primarily on home market versions of the cars. And of course, it includes a variety of claims that are subject to modification or augmentation. You don't have to talk with that many original owners of Spitfires or GT6s to realize that, the changes that occurred to the different models when it came to actual production were not always as hard and fast as we'd like to think. There are a lot of complicated issues in production that are sometimes difficult to sort out or understand. So when someone makes a claim that, well, the Spitfire Mark II had this and the Spitfire Mark III had that, usually there was overlap in the production of those two versions of the car, and the changes weren't always as hard and fast as we may think. So that's a very complicated business and something that I hope to have the opportunity to explore a little bit on this channel. But certainly one of the key works that I hope to build on is Thomason's book. There are also obviously a variety of books that cover Spitfire and GT history in a variety of ways. There are books by Mike Cook, Graham Robson, Richard Dredge, and others. So I will refer to these books pretty frequently along the way. And then, of course, I'd also be remiss if I did not mention the important Spitfire and GT6 magazine and website. The magazine ran from 2000 to 2015, and the companion website, which is really chock full of information. It's a really important resource. The website has been preserved by the last editor of the magazine, Sean Frank, whose role in the Triumph community, and especially the Spitfire and GT6 community, has been vital. In fact, I see Sean Frank all over social media offering up the digital archives of Spitfire and GT6 magazine to new owners or folks who have just joined Spitfire groups on the internet, and so forth and so on. I'll note that I was one of the original subscribers to Spitfire and GT6. I subscribed as soon as the magazine was announced and received all of the issues from number 1 through to the end of the run in the mail back in the day. And it's really hard to believe that it's been about 7-ish years since the magazine ended. So my goal here overall is to build on the documents, the work that has come before, and talk about history and production history and things like that. My focus is on preserving history. Along the way, I hope to do some book reviews. I want to look at some Triumph advertising and period documents. I want to compare some original and reproduction parts, may also do some product reviews and things like that. What I do not plan to do at this time is to do a lot of how-to or how I did that videos about car maintenance or restoration. I might do a little bit of that, but frankly, that sort of approach is already very well covered. Really wonderfully covered by some of my favorite YouTube channels. I'll name a few at the risk of omitting some that I really should acknowledge, but the Rusty Beauties channel, Roundtail Restoration, Midwest Motoring, Steve's Project Car Garage, Chef Tush's channel, though Chef Tush doesn't really work on the small Triumphs per se very much. But a lot of the work he does on Triumphs obviously translates. Hazen Wardle's channel, which I believe is now called Driveway Shop, features some cool stuff. And then with the project that I'm currently working on, early on I spent a lot of time watching Jade Muttley's channel. It was one that I watched a great deal. And that channel was featuring the restoration of a GT6 Mark II in the UK, and the channel suddenly and mysteriously disappeared, and it still doesn't exist. However, its creator, Peter Dunn, seemed to be in the process of making a comeback, and I've heard that he may possibly re-upload some of that Jade Muttley content at some point. We can only hope. There are doubtless others too, I'm forgetting to mention, but my point is that there are a lot of folks doing the how-to or how I did that stuff well. I'm really trying to fill or embrace a different niche in the hobby. So a little bit about me. I am an English professor by trade. You may say, okay, you're an English professor. Why are you hopping on YouTube to talk about Triumph sports cars? And of course, the truth of the matter is that people from a variety of backgrounds and professions and what have you get bit by the Triumph bug or the little British car bug. You know, I came to it probably the way that most folks do. I was exposed to Triumphs early in life, in my childhood. Through my father, and then also had an uncle who had a Triumph as well. So growing up, I was around Triumphs, and certainly that was a big and important influence. But now to get to my firsthand experience. I have two four-wheeled Triumphs, and this on the screen is the first of them. This is a 1980 Triumph Spitfire 1500. It is noticeably a 1980 because of the large black bumpers. Lots of people hate these bumpers, but I embrace them as the final iteration of the Spitfire. Granted, the giant bumpers were essentially mandated by federal regulations in the United States, but it's still the final evolutionary step for the model, and I've tried to preserve the original external appearance. I have made some minor modifications to the car here and there. I've not really been a purist about it, but I do intend to preserve the big black bumpers as well as most of the original features of the car. This car came from the factory and dealership with all of the options and accessories. So it's fully equipped with overdrive, with a hard top, luggage rack, stereo system, and all of that. This car is my daily driver from 1991 to about 1998. I commuted to college in it, and it was my only car early in my grad school career. The car bears the signs of being a daily driver, so door dings, rock chips, things like that. In fact, one summer, a severe thunderstorm ripped a large limb off a tree and it landed across the windscreen and crashed into the nose of the bonnet. You can't really see it from this photo, but the bonnet is still a bit wrinkled. I pressed out the dent, but I never fully smoothed it out or anything like that, anticipating sort of tackling it as part of a full restoration somewhere down the line. The car also bears scars from my learning how to work on it. There's still some evidence of ham-fisted or shortcut repairs that I did, especially early on. But to be completely fair to myself, there have also been many repairs done competently and correctly to keep the car on the road. Outside of tire changes and the differential being rebuilt by the Roadster factory back in the mid-1990s, no one has worked on the car beyond my father and I, sometimes separately, often together. Truth be told, my father did most of the work early on when I was learning, and I've done most of the work in the past couple of decades, but I still enlist my father's help from time to time. So we still work together on the car sometimes. The car's a driver. I take it on joy drives. I take it to car shows. I take it to local British car club meetings. On rare occasions, I drive it to work. I have a really long commute, but sometimes I'll get it out the garage and just drive it to commute to work. The car has about 120,000 original miles on it. The speedometer cable was broken when I first got the car, and the car was driven by me a couple of times with a broken speedometer cable when it was a daily driver. So that's why I'm guessing a little bit. The clock on the car actually shows about 118,000 miles on it, actually a little over 118,000 miles on it. And these are original miles. The engine has never been rebuilt. The transmission has never been fully rebuilt. It does have, or my father and I did put in a new synchro cup for first gear at some point fairly early in my time with the car, but that was really the extent of the transmission work. And then, of course, I already mentioned the differential was rebuilt. This car is my longest running relationship with the four-wheel Triumph in terms of ownership and maintenance and such. It's really due for a thorough overhaul, and I've collected a lot of parts to fully restore this car. But for now, I'm keeping it going because I also have this car that I acquired in the summer of 2020. This is a 1969 GT6 Plus. It's essentially a base model. It does not have overdrive or any major factory or dealer option outside of a Triumph radio and speaker system. This was actually my father's car when I was a toddler. My father bought it off of a used car lot in Columbia, South Carolina in the early 1970s. The car had been in a fairly severe accident before my father bought it. It had been hit really hard in the rear, and the body was beat out, filled with Bondo, and then resprayed for a quick sale. My dad knew when he bought it that the car had been wrecked, but he said it ran sweetly, and that's what really mattered to him at the time. He drove the car until my younger brother was on the way, at which point he sold it to a cousin, and that cousin drove it through high school and college. And then when our cousin started his career, he parked the car, and it sat mostly in a barn for decades. I think the inspection sticker on the windshield of the car it shows 1980. When our cousin was preparing to move in 2020, he reached out to me about the car, knowing that I had long been into Triumphs. Of course, I had tried to plant the seed whenever we crossed paths in the past, just letting him know I'd be interested in trying to restore the car if he decided he wasn't going to do anything with it. Ultimately, he said he wasn't up for a big restoration project and he wanted to keep the car in the family, and he generously offered it to me, hopefully knowing that I'd do my best to restore the car to its former glory. So I collected this GT6 Plus in the summer of 2020 and immediately started disassembling and assessing it. It has remarkably little rust, a little, but overall remarkably little rust, all things considered, but unfortunately lots of body distortion from accidents, both the original accident and some lesser dings that occurred over the years. I immediately started determining what I need in collecting parts, body panels, electrical switches, all sorts of things. I also started learning how to do body work and learning how to weld. I aim to keep this car as original as possible, but with a few custom touches. For example, I do have a set of aftermarket wheels that I'm going to put on the car. This is the project that is the primary focus for me right now. So that's where my, I won't call it expertise, but I will say experience with Triumph sports cars comes from. Obviously, there are a lot of folks out there who have a lot more experience than I, but at the same time, 30 plus years is nothing to sneeze at. And not only have I spent 30 plus years working on Triumph sports cars, but in that time, I've also read a lot of books. I have been through a lot of workshop manuals, and especially I've spent a lot of time poring over catalogs. And all of that has given me a lot of knowledge rattling around in my skull, which one might be inclined to say is useless, but actually becomes quite useful at times. For example, sometimes just based on my having spent a lot of time poring over catalogs, I'm able to answer people's questions online. Sometimes for models other than the Spitfire and GT6, just because I remember having seen something in a catalog at some point, 5 or 6 years ago, or whatever. So all of that time I've spent doing what I'll refer to as research actually pays off from time to time in terms of my ability to be able to help others. So I have plans for short-term content for this channel. I have a list of topics that I plan to address, and I hope to get some more content up soon. I plan to try to do one video a week. Of course, it's complicated. During busy times at work, I may be lucky to be able to get up one video over 3 weeks. And then at other times when things are less busy, like summer, for example, hopefully, I might be able to get 2 or 3 videos up over the course of a single week. So we'll just have to see how things go. But I suspect there'll be periods when I'm able to do more and periods when I'll have to do less. Again, we'll see. I do hope to start conversations, and because I do make mistakes and have blind spots, I do beg for correction if you hear me say anything that is dubious or inaccurate. I hope to make corrections openly and quickly when needed. I hope that they're not needed very often, but I know they will be needed from time to time. I do want to say the Triumph community is absolutely great, and I am blessed to have had all of the help that I've had, especially since I've started my GT6 project. I've had tremendous help on internet message boards and things like that. I've made some great and helpful friends through my local Triumph local British car club. Um, I'm grateful, and I hope to give back in some small way. Obviously, I already try to do that in various online forums, but I'm going to try to do it in a different medium here. Video production quality will not be great, as you can probably tell. At the moment, I'm largely relying on technology and skills that I picked up when I had to move my classes online because of the pandemic. If I keep plugging away at this, I hope that the quality will improve. And last, I want to mention a little bit about my son. I have an 11-year-old son. He has wanted to be a YouTuber since he was probably a toddler and first saw YouTube videos where families had gotten together and made little skits and things like that. So he has begged to be able to start a YouTube channel since he was quite young, and I've always told him, no, you need to wait until you're older. But lately he has bragged to me about his video editing skills. Not exactly sure where he picked them up, but it also would not surprise me if he had better video editing skills than I. So perhaps I'll be able to make use of those. Maybe he'll become Mr. Producer for this channel. We'll see. I also told him playfully that if he made some content, as long as it was at least slightly Triumph related, I would consider adding it to my channel. So we'll see if anything comes of that. It could be fun and interesting. If you made it this far, thank you. As I've said, I'm going to have some additional content up soon, really based on the title of my channel, what I've announced I'm going to cover, and the quality of this video. I can probably expect to have maybe 3 people tops watch it. But I'll be grateful for all 3 of you. I am going to keep plugging away at it and hope that I build some content that people are interested in. So thank you for watching. I will be uploading some additional content soon. Thank you.